And welcome back to what should be the final video in session 10. Now in this video, Lee is going to take a bunch of patch data that he has already exported out and move it on over into our terrain viewer that we've put together throughout the second part of session 10 so that we can test and make sure everything is working nicely.
Right. It's like I've baked out quite a bit of data for this particular demo. Roughly 7,000 files, about a half a gig worth of world data.
Mm-hmm.
And this took hours. So it's not something that I want to do on camera. So we're just going to copy the data that we had before, or that we've already baked out, and bring it in and see how our current system works.
Okay.
So let's go to Train Viewer, go into data here. We've got this patch data. I'm going to delete this one. Yes, delete it. And let's copy this one over. All right, so, oh yeah, I forgot how incredibly slow this computer is. Windows 7 is going to come up and say, yeah, it's going to take 42 days.
Jeez.
Well, it's still looking for files. It hasn't even started the copy.
I know. Preparing.
Yep. Have I mentioned how slow this computer is?
So once all this data gets over, then we can just test and
yeah, because what I want to do is do some of the stuff that we've done with the initial demo when we were teasing people with being able to run around the world and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So we can play around with that and see how it works, and then we'll dial in our view or our interest range and our hold range, and we can play with that a little bit as well.
Okay.
So shouldn't be too bad. And copy. So it copies faster than it can read the list of files.
So about 2 minutes.
Right. So what are you thinking next? We're going to start messing around with some persistent stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go ahead and get the data store API that Nelson has put together into play in the project, and then go from there into getting everything all tied together so that's all working well. And once we finally get all of that behind us, then I'd like for us to move on to getting some decorations, or start the R&D phases for getting decorations scattered throughout the terrain. Obviously there's a couple of ways we could go. We could look at that, or we could move into the world of shaders, but there's been so many people with concern regarding having such large landscapes and how we're going to go about handling our decorations. Let's go ahead and jump in and start experimenting with some of the ideas that we've got, some of the things you've tested out and tried in the past as demos to me, and get all of that in place to put people's concerns to rest.
Well, when I made your jaw drop.
Yeah, it was looking good. We'll just see if we can
hold it.
Yeah, with this new system and the way that the patches and all are being done now.
Yeah, most of it's going to be how far out we're going to let all the decorations go, meaning foliage, rocks, trees, bushes, stuff like that.
Right.
For anybody that is wondering what we mean by decorations. So, but yeah, it should be an interesting system. I've got several ideas, but then again, I've had many ideas with the train system, and not all of them panned out. So
this is true.
We'll see what happens. I'll start knocking stuff together. We'll see if it works. If it works, we go with it. If it doesn't, we throw it away and find something else.
How long do you think the day-night system is going to be?
The day-night stuff is going to depend on which route I go with it, because I've been looking at a couple of different systems. Some of them involve baking out cube maps and swapping out cube maps. Some of them literally involve complex shaders that simulate light. Or the sunlight, so they calculate the azimuth and the position of the sun, and then basically do a gradient across a sky dome
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure if that's going to be fast enough. I might end up, instead of putting that in a shader, I might make that a thread of its own that runs every so often, because I don't really need to run that at every frame. If I ran that, say, once every minute or once every 2 minutes, that should be enough resolution that we get a change across the sky that isn't noticeable.
Right.
So it's not going to be a performance intensive process, but it is going to be computational intensive if we do that. The reason I'm kind of thinking about going that route is because it allows me to play some tricks with lighting, particularly if we're looking at the sky from the ground as opposed to a higher elevation and potentially, the border of space.
Okay.
So the way all the lighting plays off of changes based off of your altitude, and there's several white papers out there that I've been looking at that cover stuff like that.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Because that's going to be another one that's going to be relatively close in the future as far as something that we need to take a peek at.
Yeah, the day-night cycle I'm not really concerned about. It's the clouds and the weather system that's going to be complicated.
Right.
So,
All right. So let's see what we've got with all the data now.
all right. Well, we probably aren't going to see a whole lot more.
Well, not without making a few adjustments. Whoa.
Yep.
Let's
So,
see. What do we got going on with our error?
we got lots of errors. No reference exception. Our very first one, patch updater. Yes,
Yeah.
because I had named it one in one build, and this one is train patch. I forgot because I baked this off of a different system.
Mm-hmm.
I thought so. Hold on, let me just see how I spelt it. There, that's
With a
how I spelled it.
capital T.
Yep. Casing is important.
Yes, it is.
There
There
we
we
go.
go.
All right. Wow, only a couple of patches, and it's still not too bad. I mean, you think about it, that's only 9 patches worth of distance.
Yeah, and it looks pretty darn far.
So now let's play around with some of the stuff that we had before. That would be by adjusting our ini file here to say our interest range is, let's say, 7. Now we can see a bit further out. All right, now let's do render settings. Set our fog to something like 005. Nope, 002. 25. There we go. Just basically playing with it to get something that looks pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I know the texture looks terrible. I don't care about that right now. That's just eye candy. But what I do care about, and we're still hitting that edge boundary. All right, so I'm going to lose this 0.0025 there. Let's go ahead and look at my calculation just to make sure that I didn't mess anything up inside of our update. So patch bounds render less than equal to, that looks right. It's greater than hold range destroy. Yeah, that looks right. Now what do I have on my ini file on the other one, which currently is not open? All right, VTM version, train RD, current. this one's train viewer. Oh, no, I put that in here for now. All right. 5 and 9 is what, no. 9 and 15 is what I had before. Okay, cool. All right. So, shall we test to see how fast we can go?
Sure.
Let's start off with 100. I'm saying some good results here.
Yeah, looks like it's holding up quite nicely.
Now, this camera doesn't have the correction that I think that I put in the other one. So as I start getting up into the higher speeds, it's probably going to fall through the world.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
There it goes. Because I didn't put the stay on top of the train code in. But we're getting all the performance that we had before. So, but even 100 is plenty good. And I want to, yeah, and I'm just checking here to see if things are falling off as we run. So,
very nice. Yeah, it looks like that's working well.
yep. And I fell through the world. All right, so 100 again. Let's go back down to her typical run speed of 5. But it's a very big world, and you're going to be running for a very, very long time in this. So, and even this little bit, I'm going to bump that up just because that's too slow. It's driving me nuts.
Awesome. So this is going to really conclude the viewer at this point. We'll move back over to the persistence concept, get that all tied in so that we then can rewire up the sculpting tools so that we can then do sculpting on the automatically generated worlds. Of course, we still don't have the real world generator, but that's something we're not stressing about right now. That's something.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a bit of bouncing back and forth. We'll have some temporary code here, and we'll make a temporary terrain generator, and
Exactly.
then that will feed into the data storage system, and then we'll go back and we'll revisit our terrain sculptor, put that together so we can read the data in and sculpt and save it back out, which means we're going to have to make modifications to the terrain exporter because it's then going to need to have a vertex cache included with it because it's not going to read the data directly, which means we're also going to have to query the data storage system for normals and tangents so we can get rid of those seams.
Right.
And then after all that's done, then we'll revisit, the viewer a little bit, possibly to, we definitely will because we want to see the result of all of our hard work. So there will be a lot of back and forth through this next set. So it will seem kind of, hey, why are you here? Why are you there? But it will all come together in the end, and we should have a very nice system for building little worlds.
Yeah, and that's really what's going on is the next phase is tying it all together once we get persistence working.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much, and thank you, Lee. This is going to conclude session 10, and we will catch you guys as far as development goes in the next session. So, see you guys later.